Welcome to the afternoon live show. What has gone on with the market? Oh, oy vey, with us dumping. We've had like pretty much the most dovish meeting we've had in like 2 years, with quantitative easing starting. $40 billion of treasury buybacks are happening tomorrow at 9 a.m. Tomorrow at 9 a.m. And we have crypto tanking, but it's recovered. It's recovered. So, yes, I've been almost capitulating where I'm like, man, maybe it's over because there's just so much nastiness going on right now. But before I get a little bit into the charts, let's take a look at some stuff. Okay. US Treasury just bought back $12.5 trillion of their own debt. This is the largest buyback in history. And Fed won't say it's QE, right? Completely crazy. This guy's asking Grok, what is the Grok AI? And he tagged the wrong Grok. Gork. That right there is super funny. In other news, yes, the Fed meeting was very dovish. The printer press is starting up. And so this little chart basically says, hey, the sentiment score, hawkish versus dovish. And if you don't know, dovish is basically bullish. Hawkish is bearish. And this reads very dovish, almost one of the most dovish meetings we've had in the past 3 years. Okay, which is huge. Or actually, that says 4 years, maybe even 5 years, right? Yeah, I won't go that far, but 4 years for sure. And we also have the CFTC announcing it's withdrawing outdated and overly complex guidance and penalties for the Bitcoin industry. It's all unraveling here. And this is also interesting. The SEC approves tokenized stocks. I've been saying it for years that we are going to tokenize the stock market so it can be open 24/7. Probably the biggest thing that I hate is having futures close. Futures close fucks with the market. Do you remember, was it what day was it this year when Trump, he basically tweeted that, hey, Bitcoin to the moon or some shit, and we had like the biggest wick we've had in a while, like 10 grand up. Okay, and that was on a Sunday pump. And then what happened? Bitcoin instantly reversed it and it went down 10 grand instantly. That's all because of futures. Because if we look at the futures market, and futures closes, okay, and they close and then they have to reopen. And so we get these gaps. Oops, why is that happening? We get these gaps. And then these gaps have to get filled, and they all get filled. So I've been tracking all the gaps, right? So we can see that all of them get filled. And finally, we are above one of the old gaps. And this is very strong support. So I suspect us staying above 90,000 kind of from here going forward. Bitcoin is starting to pump because we have had stocks. And dude, there's so many guys on the internet that like, who is it? I can't even think of who. Gareth Holloway, right? He's another guy that was calling that we're never going to get back above 6,850. And what happened here? We destroyed it, absolutely destroyed it. So you've got the Into the Cryptoverse, Ben, super dovish guy. Well, hawkish guy. He's very bearish. And then Gareth Holloway is also, he's a short-term trader. And so he's got a big YouTube following. I get it. But here, we have hit an all-time high. Just exploded. So much for the whole 20% pullback scenario and dropping down to this level that those guys were calling, saying we're going to get to 6,000. Ridiculous, right? You got to look with what is going forward thinking here. And we are in an uptrend. Stocks just hit an all-time high. Crypto is going to follow. Stocks go forward. Crypto follows. And what happened last night with Asia. Okay, so we had a very dovish Powell, which was interesting because Powell usually is incredibly hawkish. And we pumped to 94,000 on the Treasury buyback deal. Yes, we probably should have cut rates at the FOMC to 0.5, but we had 2 back-to-back rate cuts, okay? And the difference between what happened at the last rate cut was the last rate cut, we were overextended. The fear and greed, everybody was in greed. Bitcoin was right around like 120, so it pumped to 126 in October, and then we kind of had the October crash of the 10th, which was a liquidation massive issue, right? And which won't happen again once we start getting more regulations, which is going to be good for crypto in general. Leverage is usually awful. Guys that are doing 25x and 50x, and the whales that we see on Hyperliquid they're not using their entire bag, right? And they're using cross, so they can keep adding funds and never get liquidated. And so if you want to trade, I can help show you guys how to trade with these videos, but my recommendation is 5x. Okay, spot is by far the most important. I've had to learn the hard way as well. And yes, you can make way more money fast, but the way leverage works is it's usually like a 60-40 split, where you have to make like 60% more money to break even versus getting liquidated. It has to only go down by like 40%, because the way the math works is you lose margin faster on the way down. So it's a game of poker, right? Of blackjack, where you almost have less odds, but with probabilities you can have more odds, because we kind of know some more things with fundamentals, what's going on in the macro world right now. And macro right now is really good. Besides what all the YouTubers and a lot of people on Twitter are saying, there is a sentiment shift, but there's lots of money that is falling back in here. You look at the heat maps and everything. Yeah, huge cluster at 40K. We're not going to 40K before we get a blow off top. Okay, we have not gotten a blow off top. Ben Cowan, that dude saying that we got all-time highs in apathy, is ludicrous, in my opinion. Just complete ludicrous. Wrong. I'm just saying it's wrong. These markets get overheated with euphoria. Same thing with the stock market. Crypto is tied to the stock market now because of how big it is. Crypto is up to $10 trillion or so. The stock market is 70 trillion and more. Gold is 40. It's tied to it. We need to see a blow off top of which it's heating up. It's heating up for sure. Because looking at the RSI on the weekly, we're close, but we've got room. We can stay overextended for a month or more. So the blow off top is going to look something like euphoria. Okay. And it's probably going to happen at some time in 2026. We're talking 7,500. Okay. We're going to see a big swing here. And they don't look that great because we're on, we're simply on the weekly. On the daily, it looks a little bit more exciting, right? You know, we might even hit the 8,000. That would be crazy, right? But that would be a total blow off top. These wedges, these rising wedges, they crash. They do crash, and they crash hard. Okay. Once this breaks, it will go down. But we have tried to break constantly, like just moving little trend lines. We've tried to break over the past couple of weeks, and we've bounced back up. So I'm just going to move my little trend line saying here, we are above the 21-day. We're above the 50-day. The 200-day is way the hell down here. This looks good. We just hit an all-time high in the S&P 500, okay, which is good. Will we get rejected from here? Maybe. But we've got a lot happening towards the end of the year. We have the Santa rally, which hasn't happened in a while. Bitcoin averages around 30% and above for those deals. So 30% in Bitcoin. Okay, we're at 92. Let's just get out this little deal. Okay, we're at 92. Dun 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 dun. 30% is right around 120. Okay. So let me show this. Okay, right around 120. That's the line in the sand. And looking at the weekly, okay, 120, 120 is right here. Okay, so let me just move that here. To me, that looks like it could be a head and shoulders. Okay, you have left shoulder, head, then you have the right shoulder. That could break down. And when those things break the neckline, they go down considerably. That would be our scenario to 50 or so. And that is possible, but I'm definitely at least calling close to 120 before we see anything. Everyone talking that we're only going to get to 100. I'm just calling way BS. We're going to get to here and then it's going to go crashing down. No, not with Kevin Hassett, with the SEC coming in and wanting to just flood the market with money. We've got regulations happening. We have got the biggest bear alive when it comes to Jamie Dimon, who freaking manipulated the hell out of crypto when it was at 17,000 back in 2017, tanked that sucker to 3,000, is now finally saying crypto is it. Crypto is it. He's moved trillions of dollars on the blockchain just like that. Yes, it's very fast. Nobody likes sending wires and waiting for banks and whatever. So with tokenization happening, this is incredibly bullish. The macro background, yes, there's a couple headwinds when it comes to the Bank of Japan, December 19th, raising rates, but it's already been priced in. That was the unwind. If I look at, let me get into the stocks. If we look at the 10-year, it's been going down. Okay. Yes, we have this massive spike. And if I look at the VIX, okay, the volatility index, ooh, the VIX is that low. Oh God, that's a little mildly concerning where the VIX closed there. Truthfully, anything like under 10 is when we should see something pop up here. But, the Bank of Japan was over here. We are at 27. That's getting into that overheated moment. Okay. The whole tariff stuff that was over here. We were at, 77. Massive. That's when, if we look at the S&P 500, that's when we had this big deal, the capitulation, where S&P, because of the whole tariff crap, went down 20%. That is a recession. That is a bear market. But what happened? We had a V-shaped recovery, which means it's not done yet. And that's something that we don't see very often. Okay. This market is getting heated. The market is getting heated. It's not overextended. It's heating up. We're going to get the euphoric blow off top when you got your grandma and everyone saying, how do I get into Bitcoin? How do I get into stocks? I'm making so much money. I can't lose. That's when we get scared, right? The market doesn't instantly go into a recession when we are neutral when it comes to the fear and greed index. We need to be close to extreme greed. Okay. A few weeks ago, we were at extreme fear. And where was the stock market at extreme fear? The stock market was at 6,400. Okay. It wasn't even close. It went down 5% and we were at extreme fear. That is ludicrous. Like, it makes complete sense for Bitcoin being down at extreme fear 10, which it's never been that low before. Never been that low before. Ever has it been that low. Never has it been that low. And we went down, if I'm looking at Bitcoin, let me get back to this. Bitcoin went down to 80. Okay, that's the CME futures. We went down to 80. But what the hell do we have there at 80? We went down to 80,000. And then, like I said, you've got Ben Cowan, you've got Gareth Holloway, you got all these guys calling for, whoa, we need to touch this band. We need to touch this trend line here, because that's just how technical analysis works, is we have to touch it before we bout. Technical analysis is useless unless you've got fundamentals and macro behind it. Okay. Money can go, things can pop off instantaneously. All it takes is Trump to just sign, yes, we're buying $1 billion worth of Bitcoin. And it didn't matter if we were touching that line or below that line, it's going to pop up. Okay. What happened with the Bank of Japan, right? Things were looking good. Bank of Japan throws a black swan event saying, hey, we're raising rates. And if we look at that happened just a couple weeks ago. Let me get back to that. And dun, dun, dun. Oh shit, did I just lose it? No. That's in stocks. Sorry, that was the crypto one. Okay. And this massive run up, boom. Here, let me use the monthly here so that we can see it. So it just looks interesting, right? We're touching where it's been since 2007, 2008, massive crisis that created the whole FUD with the stocks going down 5-ish% and Bitcoin going back down to 83. If the catalyst was we were going to that 74, that is all Wall Street needed. That is all Wall Street needed to take us out, was that scenario right there. So, and what happened? Actually, let me use what I have here. Okay, let me go back to the weekly. And actually, let's go to the daily, because the daily is easier to see this zooming in. Okay. We went down to 83 because of that event. That was the catalyst that was needed to destroy us and have us go back to where all those other YouTubers, Crypto Rover, everybody that is calling, those guys lost money and they got out, right? They capitulated. Okay. First and foremost, you hold spot, you hodl. That's the thing behind me, hodl, right? But if you want to trade, I do have my referral link, and you can get up to $3,000 bonus there. But I want you guys to use 2 to 5x on your trading. Okay. And right now, these are fairly good levels. Okay. But you got to have that long liquid. You got to be careful. You want to make sure that your stops are below the crazy 72 or whatever, right? But I don't think that that's going to happen. We need a black swan event to take us out, because here we have a low, we have a higher low. We're just making another higher low at 89, because what happened with the Bank of Japan? So let me tell you this. This is, or Asia. This is what happens, okay? You have Asia. They like to fade stuff. This is happening while the guys in the United States are always, this happens constantly. So if you want to learn a little bit about how the macro world goes, okay, the United States, we have the continuation effect. We have the most money involved. So that's when we see big moves happen, is during market hours, the New York Stock Exchange. Okay. Once that closes, Asia likes to fade news. Okay. That's why we always constantly see a pretty good sell during 7 p.m. to 3 a.m. Right. And then Europe wakes up, and Europe, what they usually do is they kind of form part of the direction. Okay. They either stabilize, or they're like, okay, yeah, here's one more little dip. And then the United States opens and we find the continuation. We are the ones that usually go, you know what? We're going to continue to sell, or no, we're actually going to pump here. So Asia has very little, because there's not a lot of money involved at the moment, and they've got the interest rate risk, and it's all about what short-term traders are worried about is we've all heard it before. Buy the rumor, sell the news. Okay. And that is what happened last night with Asia, is they were selling the news. They needed to liquidate a lot of people because everyone got super bullish about what was about to happen, right? So they make everybody feel bad before it takes off. And that's exactly what happened. And now we are starting to take off. And yes, we do have some big spots to get ahead, right? It's that 96 to 98. But truthfully, we need to get above the 94 range. We need to break above this, because if I'm looking at just fundamentals, actually, let's look at technicals. Okay. With technicals, we have a ascending triangle. And these guys, once they break out to the top, they usually break out about 65% of the time. But if I just use just the rules, right? And this is what algorithms kind of go off of. You don't use this exactly because the algorithms they don't like to, they like to overshoot stuff or undershoot. What? No, I don't want text. Okay. And where is that? That is 105 for that simple breakout is at 105. And all the YouTubers are calling 98. Okay. So yeah, we have a psychological number at 1,000, but the stock market just hit a freaking all-time high. Okay. There's money. There's things moving here. The Santa rally is beginning. Solana is breaking out of a falling wedge. Okay. We have this falling wedge. Boom, boom, boom. Pretty much the exact opposite of what I was showing you of the stock market. And we've retested. Okay. So now, Bitcoin gets back to that 120, and we've got Solana back up between 175 and 200 instantly. Okay. Because if we were looking at the stock market, they're at a rising wedge. When that sucker breaks down, it's not going to be good. Not going to be good at all. And, I'm betting big money. I'm betting $350,000 that we are going to see 117 by Christmas or mid-January, right? Christmas is kind of a big stretch because that's about 20% away. But usually Bitcoin has a massive effect of moving 10 to 30% in 2 weeks or so. We just need a small little catalyst. But we do have some headwinds when it comes to MicroStrategy being delisted from the indices unfairly, whatever, because they should be in the S&P 500 because of just how much money that they have and what they've made. But, they have, what did they just do? They just raised $1.5 billion to pay dividends, which is great, right? So we will see maybe a 2 to 5% correction. The stock market may move 1%, right? The Bank of Japan on December 19th raising its rates by 0.25. Yes, okay, it's going to create some minor volatility, but it's not going to create this catalyst of crashing. Yes, there may be a liquidation cascade in crypto, which we would see the 3 to 5% deal, right? But we're not going to get back below that 80,000. I'm calling the bottom, and it feels safer to call the bottom right now because of what's happening, and it's not going to be permanent. I do think that there is massive potential for us to go below the 76,000, but not yet. Not yet. This sounds crazy, but I'm in the camp that we are going to hit. Why didn't that move? Why didn't that move? I just grabbed my tool. I want my tool. We're going to hit 150. Okay. Maybe a blow off top of 160 or so. So truthfully, the range should be around anything 140 to 175 is kind of that whole euphoric blow off. Because if we look at the RSI, guys, the RSI, this is not bear market. This is rebound territory. This is reload. This is reload. Hey, appreciate you. I'm glad you joined live, and I'm not here to just fear, uncertainty, and doubt from you guys. I'm here to create a clearer picture for you because so many people, they go after views and they go after fear from everybody. Okay. And it's because it gets clicks. No, I want to help you guys make money, right? So number one, it's HODL. Okay. It's buy spot. If you have an extra 10% on hand, use the link here and start trading. Only use 2 to 5x, but the majority of the buys should be in spot right now. Yes, everyone wants to talk about how much money they make. They use paper trading accounts, and it's FUD. It's a bunch of BS, right? But I'm not here to scare you guys. I'm here to give you guys some relief, some hopium, right? Because we are not in a bear market, okay? For Bitcoin to be in a bear market, it needs an euphoric blow off RSI back down here. We survived it, okay? And what happened? here in 2024. Okay. We went from 71, then we went to 48. Okay. Here we survived. We've survived these crashes before. Here recently in February, okay, 92. And we went down about 30, now not even that far, 31. This is completely understandable to have this kind of a correction from 126 to 80. That is prime. And we've never seen this amount of fear. Okay. Yes, fear can stay extended for a period of time, but it's not forever. It's not forever. I wish I was DCAing more than what I have. But, for me, I've loaded up big on a 2.68 Bitcoin long, right? My target is 117 when I'm scaling out. Okay. That is where I am. I'm in a Solana trade that's about 8x. Okay. Much smaller, not $360,000 worth. This one's only worth about like 10,000. Okay. But that is a pretty big bag that I have there. I'm using, 1.5 Bitcoin as collateral. So it's 150K from an average guy. 150K. I'm betting we're going up. I am betting that we are having an E4 blow off top. Yes. Can I hold to 150? I don't know. I don't know if I can hold to 150. Should I hold to 150? Absolutely. But emotions get involved with that stuff. That's how things work, right? So my take is that we're going to see by this time next month around 117 to 120, and there we'll start to see the blow off top, but things don't go up in a straight line. We just have some catalysts happening. And with the stock market being at all-time high, yes, I suspect we should either see a small rejection tomorrow, but we may not get the small rejection tomorrow because, do I have it up here? Because, okay, they just bought back a bunch of stuff. But anyway, I won't look for it on Twitter right now. But starting tomorrow, we have QE, silent QE, right? And then once Powell starts getting the hell out of office in May, Kevin Hassett is going to take the the chairman of the Fed, and he is going to be favorable to Trump. Trump starts this whole war with tariffs and everything, but he's going to make sure that stocks are doing good. Yes, I've lost a little bit of faith in Trump because of his Milani coin, and then his own coin, and then his own here. I got to look at it because I'm following it just because it is a minor signal to what is happening, because every time I see here, I got to go to trading. Every time I see this WLF whatever start pumping, every time it pumps big, then shortly after that, you see a big pump from crypto as well. So that is it. This is Johnny Crypto, here to help you guys make some money.